Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Spectre. I am your host, the 182nd version of Hobbs. That sounded weird. Hobbs 182, welcome. So today we are finally going to talk about the Resident Evil 2 Remake 2. So let's see, well let's start up from the top. So day one. So I had pre-ordered the game. Well, let me back up a little bit. So in this current gen, I honestly haven't bought a Xbox One or PS4. It came down to the decision of, so do I get a console, launch day, of course, wait for the new Resident Evil, and back then, Resident Evil 7, or do I hold out just a wee bit longer and get a PC, possibly get into video editing, streaming, all that crap. And so I waited, which turned out to be a good decision. So of course I got the game on Steam, and I had installed it, was it a week before, I think, and I even played the one-shot demo, which I actually made it to the end, so that was really cool. And so I had pre-installed it, everything was fine. So day one, I woke up super early, like it was almost like a holiday here at the house. My wife basically is like, she said, go to the game room, go play it now. I didn't wait till midnight. Normally I would have, back in the day, young Hobbs would have done that. But, now no, old man Hobbs can't handle that. So I woke up, I want to say maybe 6 a.m. and I launched Steam, hit play on Resident Evil 2, and it said installing update. So it was just like a 22 kilobyte something patch or whatever to unlock the game. But there were so many people on Steam, because my internet is fine. There were so many people on Steam that it took 47 minutes. I actually took out my watch and timed it. So of course I'm sitting there 47 minutes. It felt like 47 days. And so the 47 minutes finally finish. And, I start the game. And of course I chose Leon first. I kind of felt that they were going to do that switch where, the original was Claire A, Leon B. I kind of figured here they would do Leon A, Claire B, or second run, whatever it's called now. So I fired the game up, and it was almost like, and I recorded it at the same time too, which is the video, the 9-hour, 20-minute, whatever playthrough. We uploaded on YouTube, but it was funny. It's almost like watching a masterclass in Resident Evil design. And what I mean by that is, okay, we've begged and moaned for a remake of Resident Evil 2 for so long that they finally did it. Capcom finally did it. There were a few fan tries here and there, especially those guys from, I think they're from Italy. The game now is Daymare. But, it was finally here. The day finally came, January 25th, which, once they finally gave the date, seemed to take forever to get here. It was now finally here. So, the intro with the trucker, that burger, that burger in the beginning looked so disgusting, but it was great. And then I actually got hungry, it was 6 a.m. I hadn't had breakfast yet. I was a few hours away from having breakfast. And, that intro scene. So compared to the original, they gave him, more of a story, obviously. It was pretty funny how when he rammed into that lady zombie, I mean, my physics could be wrong, but I'm assuming if you run over somebody at dude had at least be doing 60 miles an hour, you would probably obliterate them. But who knows? Again, I've fortunately never ran over anybody. So once Leon finally showed up, oh man, studying every single line on the character model, every line on the Jeep. And, of course it's raining. Perfect setting. And it was funny how, honestly, I didn't think of the diner until a few weeks later. I heard the First Aid Spray podcast and their thoughts on the remake. And by the way, if you're not listening to First Aid Spray podcast and you are a Resident Evil fan, you are missing out. Listen to, those guys are awesome. Very, very cool guys. Very eloquent. They sound handsome. I'm sure they are. Cyan Crew. So give that a try. First Stage Spray podcast. And I honestly I completely forgot about the diner. So it was cool how you walk in and everything's a mess. And I mean, the production value, through the roof. You could basically count each box on the shelf. Everything was, you could tell, was placed with love and care. And the guy on the floor bleeding out from his neck, he's like, oh, he just points over there. And it's the cool thing was how that scene tied into the original reveal trailer of Resident Evil 2 from the rat's POV. So that was pretty cool. That was really awesome. And then also the switch that Capcom did on us, where in the one-shot demo, Leon starts with his RPD uniform, and then once you meet Marvin, you see him like buckle up, but you kind of figure, oh, he's just adjusting his gear, right? But here you realize that he's in civilian clothing, which is pretty cool because it gives you a little bit of backstory on Leon, even though there's no. Well, it gives you backstory with the environment, right? So it's funny how in 4, he's brooding, chiseled. The 1,000-yard stare, he's seen it all. And in 6, you can see he's like the James Bond ladies man. But here, like, complete rookie. Dude's wearing like white sneakers. The jacket he's wearing kind of looks like one size too big. So, definitely on the young side. So that was cool. The facial animation finally kicked in for me. It finally seemed to be in place, where before it completely seemed out of place. And once the zombies came into the gas station, that was awesome. And the whole get down scene with Claire. Claire's face also immediately clicked, and that was really good too as well. And actually her mannerisms and Leon's like what's the word, naivete, no, whatever, like, it's kind of a perfect match, and there does seem to be some chemistry there. I'm kind of wondering if they did that on purpose, but I'll talk about a little bit more on that in a bit. So meeting Claire was great. The whole car scene, we were expecting that. And the crash was really good as well. And once the actual title sequence kicked in, that was really cool. For those not in the know, that was done by Prologue. They basically reinvented title sequences. For example, they did, game-wise, they did the Metal Gear Solid 2 intro. That was done by Kyle Cooper, and the 7, the movie 7 as well, really famous for that. X-Men First Class, they definitely know their stuff. But it is cool how professional Hollywood title making studio did that intro for Resident Evil, and that was really cool. Setting up. I mean, it's been years since we've seen a new Raccoon City. The last time being Operation Raccoon City, and a little bit of Umbrella Corps, but that's not a full experience, right? But to finally see a Capcom 100% approved stylization of Raccoon City, that was really cool. And the streets honestly, they were a bit disappointing to me because it was so small, such a small segment. I'm betting it's much longer than the original, but the way they broke it up was pretty cool. But it would have been nice to see more. Maybe they're saving it for Remake 3 if they decide to do it. But seeing the again, storytelling within the environment without actually someone saying it or giving you a scene, but you see all the chaos that happened, all the abandoned cars. I'm trying to think, is that day 2 of the infection? I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. But, finally making it to the gate of the RPD, and, just seeing that very nice lit white sign RPD, like, oh man, like, finally, 21 years later, we're back. And meeting Marvin for the first time, that was amazing. Even though I had, obviously you meet him in the one-shot demo, but the voice, I'm guessing the guy who provided the voice also did the face. I could be wrong, but just that whole scene was really tight, where Leon's like, no, let's go, I'll save you, and where Marvin basically bitches him out like, I gave you an order, rookie, you save yourself first. Like, oh man, that gave me chills. And it was really cool how, even though they gave you a demo, it was really, really, really just an appetizer, and how the lighting changed dramatically. And even having played the demo before, once you went into the full game, honestly, maybe it's like 0.1% of the entire experience. So you're still on edge. You do not know what to expect. So going to the RPD, again, that took forever because I was just taking in each single room. It was great to see the place actually lived in. And, as we all know, it used to be a museum. Now it does ooze that vibe. And seeing the destruction of how pipes are burst, there's water on the floor, there's giant puddles here and there, there's broken walls. A lot of people are saying that's probably Nemesis, could be, who knows. And seeing, a bunch of chairs and furniture blocking hallways, like, in the original you read the files like, 2 a.m. we had another break-in attempt, 4 more guys are down, whatever. And now you could actually, like, you picture those fights in your head, like, oh man, how everything went down. It was nice that they changed the liquor, his location. I mean, dude does appear in the same spot in the second run, but obviously bringing back classic elements, but switching it up just enough where, it's for us veterans coming back to it, we feel again like we did the first time we played the original Resident Evil 2. And the underground, it was, much different than I had expected. It adds to the scale of the RPD. So there are areas that, well, I kind of think the whole thing seems like, Umbrella had a hand in that. Obviously, we find out later that everything connects, but all the underground passages connect to and from the RPD. So at first it did seem just like, oh man, they probably just renovated the basement / underground, whatever. But that added a lot of scale to it. Once I was actually worried to leave through the 3 medallion puzzle, because I was like, oh man, what if I can get back to the RPD? And I'm sure I've missed a lot of stuff. But it was a good surprise, Dark Souls style, where paths connect, and it's that nice surprise of discovery. And Mr. X, when he showed up, like, we knew he was going to show up, of course, because of the trailers. But I do like how it wasn't as pronounced as the original, where you get the cutscene, you see the chopper, boom, drops in, oh shit, you're fucked. But how just you're walking to the hallway, and then the chopper just boom, like, oh shit, man, when that music kicks in, that oh man, that was scary. And I was texting with a few of my buddies who were playing it at the same time, and I didn't want to shoot him because I kind of figured that maybe that could make him more aggressive. And in my second run, I did shoot him, and he does seem to move faster. I'm sure there's 100 videos on YouTube about if that's true or not, but it did seem like that to me. The sewers, once you finally made it out of the RPD, well, meeting Ada, that was really cool. I do like the throwback to the original design of her wearing the trench coat. The glasses were a nice touch, adding to the mystery, and she did seem kind of cold. It is pretty funny how she complains that nothing dies down there in the parking lot. And meeting Ben, that was really cool too as well. I definitely dig the redesign. He does look much more like a journalist. He kind of even looks like a cameraman, but I did like how they tricked us, where when he said it's coming, and Leon's, what's coming? And of course it's Mr. X who grabs him from the wall. But I kind of figured he was talking about William, because in the original, William goes to his cell and infects him with one of his parasites. But the sewers, well, once you leave the parking garage and out into the street, that's what I was dying to do as well, to go back onto the Raccoon City streets. I kind of did hope there could be more, but Again, they created a lot of scale within, you could say, closed environments. So for example, that area where you go from the parking garage through Kendo's store to the entrance of the sewers, that's technically in one city block. But again, there's a lot of story and scope there, right? And not to mention the scene with Kendo, that was really awesome as well. I do like how he did have his yellow shirt, reminiscent of the original Resident Evil 2 model. And seeing his daughter infected, like, damn, that was a moment. And you're in the game as a fan, enjoying it, for the nostalgia value. But everything's bombastic and super action. But that was a great break of character development. Like, for example, you're just thinking about yourself, like, oh man, me, the player, as Leon or Claire, I have to survive. I have to get out of this, even though we do know what's on the way to a point because of playing the original. But seeing how what's happening affects other characters, and especially dude's daughter is infected, and it's either let her be or you put her down. And how he basically goes off on Leon. Of course, Leon has nothing to do with it, but he's a police officer, so and the only one around, so if somebody's gonna get shit from someone, it's going to be him, right? And then how Leon responds to that, telling Ada how that's the reason why he became an officer, to help people, to basically because he does care about other people, fellow man. And once you jump into the sewer, well, before you get in there and you see like that big hole, all that construction that's going on, again, more scope there of how how big of an influence Umbrella has on the city, which is like, wow, like, damn. And that city basically is Umbrella, right? And once you jump into the sewers and the alligator, I remember reading articles saying that we iterated over and over and over again on the alligator. At one point it was cut, then we brought it back, then it worked, then it didn't work. But the way they did it, it was awesome. And especially Leon's reaction when he sees it, how he's like, what the fuck? A giant alligator. And then it was a nice throwback how you basically blow his head off again, but instead of with a gas tube or whatever, it's a gas pipe, right? And it's funny how then he basically yells at Ada like, dude, you're saying that the virus infects people, but this thing isn't a person. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess I was wrong. So throwing in some mystery of Ada there, but of course we all know what's up. And the sewers, they were, normally I hate the sewers. Well, for example, comparing it to the original, I'm really glad there aren't giant spiders, because for example in the remake of 1, okay, they did fit, right? But again, basically it's almost a beat for beat remake of the original, just much better looking. And in this remake, they added another spin on the overall experience. But adding those G monsters in the sewers, I mean, the sewers themselves are huge already, right? And then you have this giant mass of like guts or whatever, like that giant creature. I mean, it makes it hard to navigate. And then the like, damn, man, like when you see that sewer for the first time, and just like all the funk on the walls and the dirty water, all the giant mountains of crap. When Leon says, oh, it stinks in here, like, oh man, you feel it, like shit, literally shit, right? So because in the originals, yeah, the swords are there, but they're clean. But here, it's like, it's dark, you could tell it's smelly, it's dirty, it's funky. And again, back to the whole spider thing, when the first G monster popped its like back out, I thought it was a spider. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to move anywhere. Plus I barely had any ammo, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it's good that they left him out, because I honestly think at least with that perspective, with that over the shoulder camera, they could have looked funny. I'm sure they tried it. And for those not in the know, if I'm not mistaken, the one of the two directors on this Resident Evil was the original guy who animated the spiders in the first Resident Evil, according to the developer videos on YouTube. And again, normally, for me, source sections are kind of a chore in Resident Evil, but here they did break it up nicely. And then once you transition over to Ada and you start seeing Annette, that was a nice break in pace. Ada having her gadgets, which is really reminiscent of the Arkham games and the Batman Arkham games. And that's funny too. Like Annette, she did seem really dopey. Well, it's funny, like her face, like she seemed really stoic. Like, oh yeah, oh crap, my daughter's, well, not even crap, like, oh, my daughter's here. Like, what are you doing here? Like, dude, she's your daughter. She's going to go look for her parents, right? But she did seem really cold and incomplete. But of course, you get the full scope once you play second run. But that was definitely a nice change. And well, I'll talk about the rest of it once I talk about Claire's campaign. But once you get into the lab, that was once I saw that giant cable car that took you to the lab, again, very nostalgic. Like, oh man, like hell yeah. And that's the thing too that was really nice, because in the original Resident Evil 2, again, the whole series, it's, well, for the majority of games, it's a Japanese interpretation of American cities, American lifestyle, whatever. But they still added their Japanese flavor to it. For example, well, the best example is in Resident Evil 3. You're in the streets of Raccoon City, and those streets are super small, and those alleys are basically shop after shop after shop. That's very, very Japanese, right? The what do they call them? Do they call them the arcades? They're like whole shopping districts, like tiny street shops. And here it was like really one-to-one. Like, yeah, dude, that's that's Chicago, that's Boston, that's New York to an extent. But that ride, that cable car ride to the lab, that was really good. Leon and Ada kissing early, that also brought a bit more life into their story, where it's not even like, yeah, girl, what's up? No, it's like damn, we're in it together, and we gotta get through this together. And you build trust with someone, and you start caring for them, and eventually that could lead to something else. But the lab itself, I don't want to say it was overwhelming. It was definitely not what I expected, and I mean that in a good way. It was very not modern, but very, very efficient. Like, again, environment giving backstory. Like, you could tell Umbrella, they ordered it built in a way where they could be up and running as quick as possible. And again, like I was saying before, where the original ones are an interpretation, but there's a touch of Japanese and a little bit futuristic sci-fi, like the lab in RE2 in the original version, how it looks all high-tech kung fu sci-fi. And it's it is overkill, but in this one it's more grounded. Giant slabs of concrete, sterile white walls, and clean rooms, and yeah, a few plants here and there. But it was really great to see. Plus, I loved how they called it Nest. So they finally, it's not just the lab or the underground lab or whatever. It's finally like a character in itself, because they're naming it. And I'm not sure if Nest meant anything or they just called it that, but I'm guessing it means something, but I could be wrong. Oh, sorry, I needed a drink of water. And it was good to see. Well, here's the thing. Overall, just like the original, I felt like we got a slice of the entire scope of the lab, but this slice felt smaller. More vertical, of course, but I did really appreciate how they brought back the giant plant, and how that actually played an important part of you. If I'm not mistaken, that's where you get the final ID bracelet in order to get the virus. and how that also triggers Tyrant's almost final appearance, but his big return to chasing you. And also with the Ivy, in the original Giant Plant, okay, it makes sense. But here I do really enjoy how they basically took over the victims' bodies, and how they opened up almost like a giant mouth, like a giant sideways mouth. And it did add a factor of creepiness. It did remind me a lot of the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4, where like just the sight of them and the way they shuffle around, and you could say they're like, they kind of felt like they made like a hissing, and very, very freaky. And again, another decent surprise. Another great surprise. And the final fight with Birkin, again, I didn't expect it to be that way. It's funny because, on my own personal work, I once did an interpretation of what the final warehouse space where you fight Birkin in the original Resident Evil with the elevator in it would look like. And you know what? I'll put a link to it. Of course, I try to do a rip-off and do a one-to-one, almost like in Remake 1 of the final Tyrant room. Of course, nowhere near in quality of how Capcom and their guys do it. But I honestly did think they would go that route. But, you fight them in a circular space. But it's funny. I honestly didn't enjoy that boss fight that much. I think the spoilers for anybody who hasn't played it, Claire's boyfriend's boss fight in Revelations 2 it's also like a circular room, and he also turns into a tyrant. I think that space and the flow of that boss fight was much better than Birkin in Remake 2. Again, just my personal opinion, but I got my ass kicked again. I had no ammo, and full survival horror, barely hanging on. I think I had like one herb, maybe like 12 handgun bullets, and I had to scramble to grab everything around me. And of course, me rushing into it, I got killed. It must have been like 12 times at least. It's in the video. I'll link to that as well in the show notes, so you guys can see my horrible first time playthrough. And again, there I prefer the original final Birkin boss fight. And the final Mr. X, that was cool, because it was finally like, all right, man, you've been chasing me throughout the whole game. Now I'm gonna kick your ass. You're gonna get it. It was a cool surprise how it was in the elevator as you're going down, and how besides him you have to avoid all the crap that's falling around you. But I honestly got him in the first try, and I did see a YouTube video, maybe honestly a few days ago, of like the 10 hardest current gen bosses, and he was number 10. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest thing to happen to Resident Evil playthroughs, I'm not, but honestly I don't think that fight was that hard. But again, that's just me. And overall, Leon's campaign, it was good. It was a good ride. But of course, the ending, you get that final shot with the 2 doors in the train opening. Obviously, we know we got to go back and do, second run. But of course, I messed up, and I started a second playthrough as Claire, but Claire first run. And again, I played the same intro. But once I saw her go into the shop, and the sheriff saying the same line, like, hey, back up, whatever. I'm like, no, wait, I did something wrong. So I exited out and saw the option for second run. I started that, and this one seemed much more brief. Again, I already knew what had to be done, and it is unfortunate that there are a lot of things that Claire does exactly the same as Leon. I'm actually jumping ahead in my notes here, but one of those is the same boss fights as Leon. With Birkin and his forms, like that was really underwhelming. Now I do know that somebody could say, hey, in the original it was pretty much the same as well. Now, yes, I get that, and for that time, for 1998, that was still, still blew your mind, and you didn't think like, hey, why didn't they do this? Because we're probably so jaded, and like we know that it could have been done, but they didn't do it. I'm sure maybe there was no time, there was no resources, whatever. But jumping back, the streets, you got the other half of the streets with Claire, and it was great. It was really fantastic to see the basketball court. That was awesome. I honestly completely forgot about it. I thought, well, because with Claire, once you get out of the car, you're almost basically immediately right there at the RPD. And but once you go back out, again jumping ahead to the orphanage, and you see that basketball court, you're like, oh shit, I remember. And I'm sure a lot of people, maybe the same thing happened to them, where they forgot, and once they saw it, they're like, oh man, yeah, that was great. But my favorite part about Claire's time in the RPD, well, two things. Well, one was a nod to Brad Vickers. For anybody who doesn't remember anymore, he's a helicopter pilot from Resident Evil 1, and he's the reason why they get stuck in the mansion, because he leaves them behind and then he comes back at the end to rescue you. But in the original Resident Evil, if you make your way to the RPD without picking up any items, and you go to that space beneath the entrance, he's there. Zombie Brad is there. You kill him, you get a key to the locker that opens up the extra costumes. Now, of course, we know after playing the original Resident Evil 2, when you play Resident Evil 3, the reason why he's a zombie Brad is because Nemesis kills him at the entrance. And that was a cool Easter egg, seeing the poster there. Dude, super cheesy, and I'm sure that's a guy who works at Capcom or something, but that was really cool. Well, it did look like a person. I'm not sure if it's a render. It could be a render. I mean, there was some great character art. And meeting Sherry as well, it was really cool, but I kind of feel that, well, I mean, it's my own fault in a way, because any piece of media that they released on Resident Evil 2 right before launch, like I was like a crackhead, just seeing it over and over again, pausing frames, trying to study the composition of the shot, like, oh, is this part of the game, is this that part of the game? So of course, the PlayStation Underground, a video of Claire meeting Sherry, oh, you need help, he's behind you, who's behind me, oh shit, it's William, and he's fucked up, and I gotta fight him. So I kind of knew what to do already in that boss battle, even with my first run with Leon. And it's funny, this Sherry, I kind of cared about her more, even though I kind of felt you don't see her as much compared to the original. And in the original, her school uniform is super Japanese, and in here, again, like I've said in a previous episode, that looks like something out of a grade school in Mexico, not the US. And I went to the school, I went to half of grade school in the US, and I honestly don't remember seeing a uniform like that. But again, it's a nice touch. Meeting Irons, that was really cool. That was one thing that really bugged me in Leon's run. I felt like I had missed something, and that's why I couldn't go into Irons' office. But then, after playing Claire and reading online, you're not supposed to go in there as Leon. Or at least I think, right? But finally getting into that room, that was really, really, really cool. Water. And Irons I really liked the way they build him up, because in the original Resident Evil 2, he kind of looks like a grumpy, blocky Burt Reynolds. And here he looks like a creeper, man. Like, he reminds me of almost like a mix between, Brian Irons and the counselor in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that rapey guy. For some reason, like, really, really slimy, like really dirtbag. And the orphanage was a nice addition to the game. Again, in the developer videos, they were saying that there was possibly a humanoid creature in the attic, and that concept art looked really good. So, who knows how that could have been. But the cool thing about the orphanage was how, for example, in the original Resident Evil 2, Irons has his, rape dungeon or whatever you want to call it, beneath, well, not beneath, but like through a secret door in his office. And here it's like a normal room on the first floor of the orphanage. So you could tell, like, damn, people just, look the other way, money, threats, probably something like that. And it was also creepy how, like, they were spying on the children, but it was really great. I honestly did not expect it, how when Irons chased you as Sherry, that was really freaky. He got me maybe twice, two, maybe three times. The one I remember the most is after you throw the acid on him and he's knocking shit around, and there's a window, and I thought you could climb up it. I didn't know you had to like wait it out just a bit, and he would go to the bathroom, and then you would steal the keys there. But that was really cool. And the only thing there, and this is just me being a pain in the ass, but in the environment art, when Irons gets killed by William, like, that room only has one entrance, and that entrance is behind you, and obviously Irons is looking at you, but William appears behind him. So I mean, maybe I gotta go back to the footage because I did record the playthrough. Maybe there's a latch, a secret door or something that I missed, but like, again, just me being anal and like, wait a minute, where did he pop out from, right? But so going back to Annette, it was messed up how she basically tells Sherry, I don't got time to mess around and take care of you. And you're like, damn, like, that lady's a terrible mother. But, then you realize he's trying to stop William. And it's funny how in the original Resident Evil 2, when you see that cutscene of William getting gunned down, she walks in and, oh, William, my darling, I'll go get help. And over here it's like, William, what did you do? Like, the fuck's wrong with you? You did something stupid, right? And that was really weird. I mean, I'm sorry, not weird. That was definitely a big change. Like, wow, like, damn. And William himself, he did look kind of dopey. I'm actually glad he got shot. And those VHS tapes from Hunk's team, that's awesome. I did, in a previous episode, mention that it would be cool if, besides the fourth survivor, you could actually play as Hunk or Hunk's team in the main game. I kind of thought they were going to have like one playthrough where you play as different characters, but I was wrong there, and I'm glad I was wrong. But I guess Hunk and his squad, like, the less you know about them and play as them, the better, because they still maintain that aura of mystery. Like, even playing the fourth survivor, you're like, oh man, I want more Hunk, right? But if they give you too much Hunk, could they make him lame? Probably not, but who knows. Again, the same fights as with Birkin, with Claire. That was a big disappointment to me. Again, I'm not saying I could have done it better or anything, no, but it was like, oh man, like, I did this already, right? So, and I'm doing it again, and I already know how to do it. But the final, I call it the final Gatling gun fight. That was cool. I completely forgot about the elevator, and it is a shame that they completely scrapped the marshalling yard, which is my favorite area in Resident Evil 2 and my favorite theme song of the entire series. And it's cool how in Outbreak you go back up and you fight the final boss of Below Freezing Point. But here it was a pleasant surprise, like, oh man, yeah, I forgot about this is here. And again, like they said in the first H3 podcast, go listen to them, how you see the two plugs and you see the Gatling gun, that's it, and it's gonna go down. And I did really like that boss fighting around the train. And just a simple, well, not simple, but just the little touches that they add that normally other developers wouldn't add, but these guys did it, and it goes a long way. Like, for example, William, how he jumps onto the wall and then basically WWF style just like lunges himself at you. When I saw that, I honestly like looked up with Claire and my mouth was open, and if I'm pretty sure Claire's was too. I was just like, what I let him fall on me. It was just like, so I did not expect that. I thought maybe he was going to jump onto the train, but not like onto me directly. That was really cool. And then towards the end, when I was like maybe 2 shots away from defeating him, how he was basically dragging himself on the floor trying to get to me, and then the light hit him just right where I was on the opposite side of the train trying to, get some cover, wait for him to pop out so I could shoot him. But I could see the shadow he casted on the wall. Like, it's little stuff like that that's like, oh man, hell yeah, this is a remake too, right? And overall, I did enjoy the game. I do think, well, honestly, I had more fun with Leon's because it was, the first playthrough, and with Claire again, there were a lot of stuff that you did the same. So that's why it was more fun to me. And everything finally came together. I know before I had mentioned how the facial animation did look weird. It kind of seemed like early work in progress shots versus final, print shots. And when it really, really clicked for me was when you meet Claire, when she's outside the gate trying to get in, and she's like, hey, the animation itself, the voice acting, and overall it gave Claire like another personality, where in the original it's like, oh, I'm Chris's sister and I can handle anything. And here she was basically almost like a normal human being, right? Yeah, she knows how to shoot a gun, whatever, but like, I mean, this is, some next level, George Romero zombie apocalypse shit. And that was really cool how, both characters did feel down to, grounded. They were like real people, right? Not super heroic video game characters. That was really cool. Plus, again, like I mentioned before, it kind of did seem like there was like a little hint like maybe they started liking each other, especially Claire. Towards the end when Sherry says, is this your boyfriend? And she's like, no, but that would have been one hell of a first date. So, kind of flirty there. That was, again, a cool touch. The Forced Survivor campaign, well, Hunk's playthrough, that was really cool as well. It did suck for me because on the first try I made it to the outside, to the gate, but I had spent all my grenades, and you need grenades for that final section. But after a few tries, I think 7, I finally got it. And the Tofu Survivor being a rerun of Hunks just with with knives, that was really cool as well. I do like how they got extra mileage out of tofu by adding variations to tofu, in not just in skins but in overall, you could say character personality. Like, you got the one dude that has like the little, what's it called, the beret and the grenades, and one dude's like super strapped, and you're the guy flamethrower only, got the cigar in his mouth, and the one guy is like carrying all the herbs. Like that was really cool. The Ghost Survivors, I do appreciate free DLC always, no doubt. It is funny how Resident Evil extra games break up into a few categories. So you got basically like I call it the run and gun, which is like the battle mode in RE2, in the Saturn version of Resident Evil 1, and also in the original Mercenaries in Resident Evil 3. Then you got what I now just call the Mercenaries, which is RE4, RE5 as well, and raid mode, which I think that's my favorite out of all of them. Well, and this, well, what I call this new one, which is, I'll call it Survivors, right? Which is like the Ghost Survivors, you have specific conditions. The addition of the vending machines was a good touch. A little twist there, but out of, you could say, those 4 categories of extra modes, raid mode for me is definitely my favorite for sure. After that, I would say Mercenaries. Wait, was it called Mercenaries in Resident Evil 6? Man, I gotta play that thing again because, like I mentioned before, I only beat it once. Played everything through all the unlockables, and that was it. I never touched it again. But final thoughts on the whole experience. Again, well, like I said before, for me, the definitive version of Resident Evil 1 is Remake 1. That's hands down stone cold bread and butter survival horror. That's what I'm guessing they tried to do with the first one. Obviously, a few limitations there, they couldn't. But what they finally were able to achieve in the GameCube generation, that's it. that is the version, Remake 1. But for 2, I don't see Remake 2 being my definitive version of Resident Evil 2. I still think the original is hands down, again for me, the definitive version. But I do appreciate that that Remake 2 exists as a side experience to the original Resident Evil 2. It's not in front of it, it's not behind it. It's to the side, but not on an equal level of impact for me, but just okay, I appreciate this is here. The game controls phenomenal. I'm actually doing a run of 10th anniversary of Resident Evil 5 right now on Twitch, and man, it was really hard getting back into that after playing Remake 2 because of the character movement. The aiming, everything is extremely tight. Production value is through the roof. Maybe there was some photogrammetry here and there, but I kind of hope I kind of hope they learned their lesson, because photogrammetry on a technical aspect sucks for the artist, because you have to clean that up, because you just get it's like the computer vomited a bunch of polys, and you got to clean that shit up. You can't use it as is. It doesn't work. It's not optimal. It's a mess. You have to clean it up, and cleanup sucks. And I'm sure a lot of artists agree with me. And maybe they would prefer to completely build something from the ground up and not having to receive a bunch of assets that you have to clean up. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But, again, phenomenal overall package in production, in gameplay. But, again, so it's a really weird spot. So the way I see the timeline, so there's 0, right, before 1. Which that already in itself, again, is almost a remake of the Nintendo 64 version that they tried to develop. Then you have Remake 1, which basically erases and throws the original Resident Evil 1 out the window. And then when you come to 2, it's almost like 2 branching paths, like a fork. So on one side you got the original RE2, and you got a Remake 2, and then that they come back together and it keeps going straight into 3. Again, very happy it exists, but it did not replace Resident Evil 2 in my heart. But again, very happy, thoroughly enjoyed it. I do need to do Claire first run, Leon second run, but again, because we're doing the anniversary of 5, that's why I haven't gone back to it. And I want to get more 7 in as well. But overall, it almost seems like First Aid Space paid me, but just like they said, very, very, it's a very exciting time as a fan of how satisfied we are with the series. 7 and Remake 2, the future does look very bright. Personally, I hope we get Revelations 3 next, if that is a thing. If Remake 3 is going to happen, I would wait until after 8. So if I had to guess, I would say a next Revelations, whatever they want to call it, 3 or something else. Maybe 8. And then Remake 3 if they're going to do Remake 3. But I don't think they should. If they are doing Remake 3, I don't think it should be the next one. But again, just me, break it up a little. You don't want to fall into the same pattern where we got too much Resident Evil too fast, and it was the same thing over and over. 1, 2, 3. They were basically the same game with a few slight changes, dodging, 180-degree turns, stuff like that. But again, it's not my show. It's Capcom's. I'm just a fan, happy to be along for the ride. But hopefully, well, you know what? I would like to see more DLC for 2. But, who knows? Maybe it's in the plans, maybe it's not. But again, very happy it exists. But the original 1998 Resident Evil 2 will always be my favorite. And I was worried that it would usurp the original Resident Evil 2 and take its place. But again, for me, it didn't. And I'm happy it didn't. And I'm happy it does exist. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So let's see. Cool. So that's all the notes. Yeah, this went by very, very quickly. I was kind of hesitant at first to record. I thought I might have to break it up into 2 different episodes, but it worked fine for one. You know, one dude talking by himself. Everything goes by fast. But yeah, guys, so thanks for tuning in. Remember, feel free to visit the website, goblin6.com. There's links to Twitter there, to the forum, because the forum is a long URL. It's forum.goblin6.com/forum_g6.php, some weird shit like that. I messed up in the install, but I'm not going to change it and reinstall it again. It was such a pain in the ass to get PHP BB up and running. But, you know, again, forums, Twitch. So that's twitch.tv/goblin6, but it's GOBLN6, because Goblin 6 was taken, which really sucks. But I'll put all those links up in the notes. But cool, guys. So thanks for tuning in. So this was episode 3 of Spectre, and we will see you guys next week. Next week we will be talking about Resident Evil 3, and that one, honestly, you know, a little preview. I barely started appreciating it around 2017, because before then I hated its guts and I did not want to touch it. I mean, I had played it, but it was like almost like a bastard child of Resident Evil. But again, I'll explain why in the next episode. But cool, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and keep it real. Talk to you later. Peace.